Don't Starve is a pretty tough game to pick up and get good at, so I wanted to see if I could make some more content that might help out some newer players in the game today. And I thought it would be fun to look back at some of my early experiences in the game and give you guys some tips that I really would have loved when I was starting out. So I rewatched my entire first series of Don't Starve Together from way back in 2015, and firstly, I would not recommend. It's pretty garbage, not gonna lie, but I did pick up on a bunch of things that I think would be helpful for new players. So for starters, you don't need to have a base set up by the end of day one. You don't need to build a fire pit or even a campfire on the first night. For the first few days, the night will be very short. On day one, it's only 60 seconds long, so making a torch is a much more efficient use of your resources, and it doesn't require you to build an axe and chop down trees for logs. If you're worried about needing to cook food, then don't. Most characters will lose 75 points of hunger in a day and start off with twice that much, so you can often go at least a day without eating anything at all. And for reference, 75 hunger is 6 raw carrots or 6 roasted berries, so it really doesn't take much to look after your hunger early on. You also don't want to get tied down to a base at the beginning of the game. I made the mistake of setting up a camp very early on, and if you have to keep returning to the one spot, it really limits the area you can explore. The world in Don't Starve can be quite large, and one of the primary things you should do in the game is to try and see what your world has to offer. Where is the Pig King? Where is the Oasis? Where is McTusk, Glommer, Beefalo, Sinkholes? And you get the idea. Winter starts after day 20, so you don't need to have everything set up by day 2 or 3. And don't be afraid to approach or even attack creatures you find out in the world. You'll very quickly learn which ones are friendly, which ones are neutral, and which ones aren't as dangerous as you once thought. It'll also help you to learn the kiting patterns, how much health the mobs have, which ones attack in numbers, and more. Just make sure you fight with an actual weapon though. You also shouldn't be too concerned with sanity. You'll probably only be losing 20 sanity a day unless you go digging up all the graves or something, and you get heaps of it back by prototyping any of the many recipes that are locked at the beginning of the game. Don't even bother with garlands. And if you do find yourself properly insane, as long as you have a weapon, you're fine. Fighting nightmare creatures is an incredibly important skill to have, and nightmare fuel is something you will never be able to get enough of as you progress through the game. So turn off the sanity noise if you have to, but get comfortable being insane. And while I'm at it, get comfortable being in the dark. There are some days, especially in winter, where nighttime is more than a third of the day. If you're spending all that time sitting by a fire pit, you're wasting too much time. Make torches, make a miner hat, wear a log suit if you feel you need some kind of protection, but you'll often hear things before you see them anyway. Also, as a sneaky tip, a hot thermal stone gives off just enough light to keep Charlie away, so you can truly walk around in the dark. And on the topic of visibility, rotate your screen. If you're walking towards the screen all the time, you can't see anywhere near as much as when you walk away from it. So rotate it so that you're always walking in that direction. And it also helps you spot things behind boulders or trees that you otherwise might have missed. You can also move with the mouse if you're playing on mouse and keyboard. And while this isn't something I do a lot, if you want to check your map but don't want to stop moving, maybe something's coming after you for example, you can click ahead to where you're going and your character will keep moving as you look at the map. This is incredibly handy, especially in the caves, and I wish someone had told me that years ago. And another super useful feature with the mouse is shift clicking to automatically switch items between inventories. You can use this to switch to your backpack or to a chest, or from icebox to crockpot, or even to your sea fishing rod. Control clicking on a stack of items will pick up half of the items, and holding control to place items will deposit them individually, which is really useful if you only need 1 or 2 items from a full stack and don't want to carry the rest. And please organize your inventory. It doesn't matter too much how you do it, but do it. Trust me. I like to put a weapon, chest armor, and a light source in the first few slots so I can switch with the number hotkeys. It just makes it so much easier to multitask, and I find the hotkeys are much more responsive than clicking with the mouse anyway. But even just so that you know where your basic resources are, you're going to be using a lot of grass, twigs, logs, flint, gold, and you don't want to have to scour your inventory every time you need to build something. And speaking of grass, twigs and flint, you're going to need a heap of them in the early game, and grass and twigs you'll need always, so make sure to spend some time actually gathering them. Tumbleweed is a fantastic way to collect plenty of easy resources, and you also have a decent chance of getting goodies like gears, reeds, silk, blueprints, and even some rare gems, so I highly recommend checking out the desert as soon as you find it. You might also want to dig up a bunch of grass and twigs to replant at your base, since you'll constantly need more of them. And when you do, make sure you have the geometric placement mod installed. You don't want your base looking like this. In fact, geometric placement is probably the one mod that I would recommend above all others to every player. Of course, there are plenty of other helpful mods that you can get into later on, but I do think it's best to start with a more or less vanilla experience to get a good understanding of the game. Geometric placement, however, is mandatory as far as I'm concerned. And when you're planting grass and twigs, you should also be planting berry bushes. Don't worry about farms. Farms are trash, especially basic farms. In the time that it would take you to collect the resources for and build a couple of farms that will only feed you a couple of veggies every few days, you could have very easily dug up and replanted 2 stacks of berry bushes that will not only give you plenty of berries, but gobblers as well, which you can kill for drumsticks. Easy meatballs, easy turkey dinner, easy life. Hound waves are also a common issue that I've seen from my old gameplay, and my advice to new players would be to just make yourself a weapon before day 8 or so, and just fight them. The first wave is only going to bring a couple of hounds each, and they come one at a time, so use it as an opportunity to practice your kiting, 2 hits and dodge for hounds, and the monster meat goes very nicely with your berries. Eventually you will probably need to find an alternative method of killing the hounds, such as beefalo or tooth traps, but that's not something that you need to have set up for a while, so don't worry too much about it. But anyway, those are just a few tips for things that stood out when watching my early playthrough of Don't Starve Together. I hope you found it helpful if you're new to the game, and feel free to let me know in the comments which parts of the game you're struggling with for other videos in future. I know I struggled a lot with caves early on, so that might be something to discuss in another video, but it's been a long time since I was new to this game, and the game itself has changed a lot since then, so let me know what you're having difficulty with. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Follow me on Twitch if you want to watch me play live, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.